In this program, we'll show you how to install your Firestone Airline Air Command F3 air compressor kit. Prior to installation, complete the installation of your ride-right air springs. And be sure to review all the instructions that came with your Air Command F3 before beginning. In this video, we will be using a no-drill air accessory mounting kit, sold separately, to mount the compressor to the vehicle frame. Before doing any work, remove the negative battery cable. First, install the push-to-connect straight fitting into the pre-installed check valve on the air compressor. Tighten to engage at least 2 thread locks of the orange thread sealant, but don't over-tighten the fitting. Next, attach the air filter to the compressor and hand tighten. If the compressor will be located in an exposed wet location, rather than connect the filter directly to the compressor, you should snorkel the air inlet filter. Now, mount the compressor to the no-drill air accessory mounting plate sold separately, with the machine screws, nylock nuts, and washers supplied with the kit. Place the compressor on the no-drill plate so that the compressor head is above the airline to prevent any water trapped in the airlines from running back into the compressor head. Tighten all the nuts. Next, mount the ECU assembly with the machine screws and nylock nuts. To complete the pre-assembly, mount the sealed relay with the machine screw, washer, and nylock nut to the no-drill plate. Pick a location to mount the pre-assembled no-drill mounting plate on the frame protected from airborne debris and moisture, and that the wire harness will reach from the location to the battery. Install the frame brackets to the frame using the bell clamps provided with the no-drill air accessory mounting plate kit. Just hand tighten the nuts for now. You'll tighten them completely once the pre-assembled no-drill mounting plate is installed. Mount the pre-assembly to the frame brackets using the nuts provided. Adjust the frame brackets as needed to align the holes in the no-drill mounting plate. Place the pre-assembled no-drill plate so that the compressor head is above the airline to prevent any water trapped in the airlines from running back into the compressor head. Securely tighten the nuts on the frame brackets. Next, you'll need to attach the compressor ground wire to the vehicle frame. It helps to pre-drill the frame. For a good ground, scrape away the underbody coating to reveal bare metal as needed. Attach the ground wire using the self-tapping screw. Now you can install the wiring harness. Start with the connections between the wiring harness and the components on the pre-assembled no-drill mounting plate. First, connect the sealed relay. Then, the positive red connection on the compressor. If the connection will be exposed to water, seal the connection with RTV silicone sealant for additional protection. And lastly, connect the ECU connector. Once you've made all the connections, gather up the excess wire and secure it with the provided nylon ties. Do not cut out any excess wire in the harness. Doing so can cause problems and may void your warranty. Pass the wire harness into the engine compartment. Be sure to route the harness to avoid any sharp edges or hot areas. Gather any excess harness and secure the wire harness to the vehicle with the nylon ties. Start the harness's electrical connection to the vehicle with the included fuse tap. Refer to the ignition fuse tap instructions in the installation guide for complete details. Check your vehicle's owner's manual to determine a safe and suitable ignition fuse port to use. Use a multimeter to verify that the port's voltage is between 11.8 volts and 15 volts DC when the ignition is on, and 0 volts when it is off. It is important to identify the hot side of the fuse port. Refer to the user manual for how to identify the hot and load sides of the fuse. Crimp the included fuse tap to the yellow lead in the wiring harness. Now, remove the fuse and place it in the fuse tap. Also, place a 10-amp fuse from the kit into the top fuse tap port. Place the fuse tap into the chosen location in the fuse box. Be sure to match the hot and load sides of the fuse port. Connect the red wire on the harness to the positive battery terminal. Do not connect the negative wire to the battery at this point. We will connect it at the end of the installation. Now you are ready to install the airline tubing. Start with installing a short length from the compressor to the supply or SUP fitting on the ECU assembly. Push the airline tubing into the fitting as far as possible. Then, cut to length using a tubing cutter and insert the end of the tubing into the push-to-connect fitting on the compressor. Next, install a section of tubing that runs from the right side air spring to the AS2 fitting on the ECU. Run the tubing to avoid direct heat from the exhaust pipe and any sharp edges. Cut the tubing to length using a tubing cutter. Be sure to push the airline tubing into the fitting as far as possible. Secure the tubing to the vehicle frame with nylon ties. If your installation does require the airline to run near heat or past rough or sharp edges, place the thermal sleeve included in your kit over the tubing to protect it. Next, route the airline tubing for the left side air spring following the same steps, and attach it to the AS1 fitting on the ECU. Now you're ready to test the system. First, reattach the negative battery terminal, and then connect the black wire from the harness to the negative battery terminal. And turn on the ignition. To operate the system, use the wireless controller. Press the round Enter button to turn on the remote. The display shows 0.5 on 2 rows. The system automatically inflates to 5 psi, the minimum pressure. Press the Enter button again, and the top row of the display flashes. The top row is the left side air spring pressure. Flashing indicates you can set the pressure to your desired number with the plus or minus buttons. Press the Enter button again, and the bottom row of the display flashes. This is the right side air spring pressure. Press the Enter button again, and both rows flash. This allows you to adjust the pressure of both the left and right air springs at the same time, known as dual leveling. For our test, set both springs to 70 psi. Refer to your installation guide for other springs' maximum pressure recommendations. Press and hold the plus button to advance the pressure in large increments. Press the plus button to advance the pressure at 1 psi increments until you reach 70. Press the Enter button to set the system. The air springs will now adjust to your set pressure of 70 psi. Once the springs are inflated, check all the airline fittings for air leaks. Spray a solution of soap and water on the fittings. If a leak is present, you'll see expanding bubbles around the leaking area. If you find a leak, let the pressure out of the line before repairs. If the leak is at the tubing connection, check that you have a square cut and that the tube is fully inserted into the fitting. If you find a leak where the air fitting screws into the spring, tighten the fitting another quarter turn and spray again to reassess. If you find a leak at the fill valve core, use the valve core wrench on the inflation valve cap to tighten the valve core. After any repairs, reinstall the tubing, reinflate the air springs, and check for leaks like before. The wireless remote can display air spring pressure in PSI or bar. Press and hold the Enter button to display the measuring system. Currently, the remote display is set for PSI. Use the minus button to select bar. Press the Enter button to accept the change. To return the remote display to PSI again, press and hold the Enter button. Use the plus button to select PSI. Press the Enter button again to accept the change.